So all of those existing provisions on self-defense and the defense of property with these new defenses that were put in there with the goal of, simplifying and clarifying the law all came into force in 2013. Can somebody remind me who was in government then?
Another episode of Power and Politics where they discuss Pierre Poilievre's push to allow more extreme force when dealing with home intruders. CBC has always twisted the story and took this as an opportunity to bash Pierre Poilievre.
The CBC's Kat Tunney is following this story for us. Kat, why is Poilievre proposing this amendment to the criminal code? What exactly would it change?
Yeah, well, JP, he appears to be jumping in a very emotional and very loud conversation that's happening right now about self-defense and what you can and cannot do in your own home. And of course, this debate is in the spotlight mainly because last week police charged a man with aggravated assault after someone allegedly broke into his home in Lindsay, Ontario. And there's still many, many missing facts in the story as it kind of works its way through the court system. But it's led to a lot of public outcry. And this is not the only case where someone has faced charges due to a home invasion. So what Poilievre is pushing is kind of an amendment to the criminal code to clarify what is reasonable when someone comes into your home and poses a threat. And to be clear, the existing law does allow you to respond. It does allow you to defend yourself within reason and if it's proportional. And the courts are kind of asked to consider 9 factors when determining what is reasonable, things like what weapons were used, the size of the 2 people or how many people are involved, and of course, how real the threat was as well. So,
within reason and proportional, 9 factors when determining what is reasonable. Those 9 factors are nature of the force of threat, imminence of the threat, the person's role, presence of weapons, physical capabilities, history of the relationship, communication, defensive purpose, and reasonable perception of force. Under what would likely be a terrifying moment for most, if not everyone, these are all the things that must be considered before you defend yourself. In a split second, how is that possible?
The Conservative proposal, as you saw there, is much more simple. There's 2 conditions he's asking to look at, and it would really make sure that reasonableness is presumed in these cases. Now, legal experts that we've been speaking today are raising some concerns. Some bit of a slippery slope is the term I've heard a few times today. Concerns about that this would give people a license to resort to violence. Worry that this would lead to more deaths in these cases. And I think no one is saying that people should be allowed to break into your home, but I think there's some concern about, well, what happens if there's a mistake? What happens if someone's drunk and it's at your door? Like, would you have the right to shoot them? Like, these are questions that people are asking right now.
Is anyone really asking that question if someone comes to your door drunk? I don't think so, and I actually had this happen about a week ago. A drunk man outside my door yelling and screaming. He had threatened me about a week before. Now, him just being outside the front door on the grass, I knew I didn't need to do anything. There is a threat, but it's not enough to act. I could just go inside. But if he had broken into my home, for myself, that changes everything, and I wouldn't hold back. I don't care if I'm much bigger than him. I don't care if I didn't see a weapon. I don't care that we had exchanged words before. He's coming inside, and that's enough.
Perhaps a knee-jerk reaction to a story that we don't have all the details in. And just, as a really quick summary, so far, all we really know, according to court documents in this Lindsay case, is that the tenant, Jeremy McDonald, used a knife to attack the accused, of the alleged intruder, this guy named Michael Breen, who was allegedly carrying a crossbow. So it sounds like a lot of things happened behind those closed doors. Acquaintances have told CBC the 2 men knew each other. So a lot more to find out in that case. And just to kind of wrap this up, Justice Minister Sean Fraser did come out today in a social media post responding to what Poilievre has put out there, kind of dismissing it. Does not sound like the Liberals by any stretch are going to take this and carry it forward. He accused Poilievre of basically attacking the police in this case and the work that they're doing, and has said that he basically is chasing photo ops. So it doesn't sound like it's coming from the Liberals, but the Conservative leader was adamant this morning that he'll bring a bill forward in some kind of form, like a private member's bill. So we will likely be hearing more about this fall.
You gotta love how she says the homeowner attacked the intruder. These people have no shame. A man breaks into your home at 3 a.m. with a crossbow and you defend yourself. It doesn't matter if they know each other or not. This shouldn't be a crime. The intruder should be thanking the homeowner he's still alive. When it comes to the police, if the homeowner was an officer, he wouldn't have been charged. And the story would have been that he's trained to realize the seriousness of the situation. We see this all the time. If you were to charge at a police officer with a knife, even a baseball bat, they're going to respond with deadly force and likely get some sort of reward for doing it.
I'm sure we will. Okay. Thanks to CBC's Kat Tunney. Thanks for that report. Lots to discuss with our panel of political insiders. Supriya Dwivedi was an advisor to former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Here with me is Fred Delory, a former Conservative campaign manager. And Anne McGrath is a former director of the New Democratic Party. Hi, guys. Nice to see you all on this Friday. Supriya, I want to start with you on this one. What do you make of Poilievre's proposal here? I mean, he is using this Lindsay case, which does frankly seem a bit terrifying. Like some guy storms into your home with a crossbow and then you get charged for defending yourself. Doesn't seem that great. What do you make of what he is pitching here? It seems like a populist catnip, if you will.
Yeah, sure. But it is, to your point, super understandable as to why this issue is garnering so much attention as it is, right? In that case in particular, someone breaks into your home in the middle of the night armed with a crossbow and you somehow get charged as well. It just does seem, again, on its face, you read the facts, patently absurd. So it makes complete sense why the Conservatives would jump on this. But it starts to make a lot less sense once you realize that the entire reason why we have proportionality kind of included, as well as those other conditions that Kat kind of alluded to, is because of Bill C-26, which is the Citizens Arrest and Self-Defense Act. That received royal assent in June of 2012, and the measures came into force in March of 2013. So all of those existing provisions on self-defense and the defense of property with these new defenses that were put in there with the goal of, simplifying and clarifying the law, all came into force in 2013. Can somebody remind me who was in government then?
We know who was in government then, but crime was also down then, from the Fraser Institute. Violent crime, Canada in the red, US in the yellow per 100,000 people. As we can see, it was well under the United States and on a downward trend until Justin Trudeau came into power. Then going up, and this only shows until 2022, but now higher per 100,000 than the United States. Property crime, same thing. Downward trend, then the Liberals come into power, and it's up. Also, again, higher than the Americans per 100,000. CBC always leaving out the important part of the story.
And look, it's completely fine to change your mind, and I think we should encourage more of that in politics. And if he thinks the Conservative government got it wrong, because they're the ones who, the OG ones who introduced the legislation to include proportional force, then come out and say that. And I will just end, and let my other colleague jump in here in a sec, but it is very common sense that you would want the law to be on the person's side who is trying to fend off the intruder, right? So if what they want to get to is if someone breaks into your home, then you should essentially be legally allowed to kill them, then I think they should say that. And to be clear, it's not because I think it's a losing argument, because if I'm being honest, as a recent-ish widow who lives alone in Toronto with my 6-year-old daughter, I think that's an okay argument to make, but then make it. Don't dance around it.
I keep hearing this from the CBC and the Liberals, and they're not even denying that Pierre is right in most cases lately, but it's just the way he presents his ideas, and it really shows how out to lunch they are. They're really just being put in a corner by common sense, and their only defense is to attack the presentation, not the plan.
People are tired of getting their cars stolen. People are tired of home invasions. People are tired of whatever, And do you think that this has some political firepower to it? Do you think that this is actually something that has some appeal to people? I mean, I said it's populist catnip, and it really is in a way, because how do you stand against something like this? It's tough, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially with this latest case in Lindsay, it really is a talker. This is the kind of thing that people are talking about over coffee, at the water fountain, in the lunchrooms, around the family dinner table. So I think that it does have a lot of resonance, and I think people are very worried about crime, legitimately so. However, I don't think that Pierre Poilievre is the right messenger on this. I watched the newser that he had today. Number one, I think that it is political catnip, and it does potentially go way too far, and does seem to encourage some kind of vigilantism. So I think that there's real problems with it. But the main problem, I think, is that Poilievre on this issue, he didn't sound sincere in his news. I felt very badly for those poor kids that had to stand behind him for all that time.
It wasn't a great look, to have the children.
And he sounded sort of stilted and halting, and the main thing I took from it was that he's decided that there was absolutely nothing wrong with their last election campaign, and that he's just going to go full steam ahead. And I think that's a mistake.
absolutely disgusting how these people can act, calling it populist catnip. Who's bringing in millions of immigrants to the country and giving away our hard-earned tax dollars to? It's not the Conservatives. Who uses the CBC to spread lies and misinformation? It's no wonder the CBC needs billions of tax dollars to stay on the air. Everything they put out is trash. I'm going to end the video here. Hope everyone is having a great long weekend. Don't forget to like and subscribe.